We have got 500 followers and we would love 500 more.
One for each other and all for one. The three brave amigos are we. Brother to brother and everyone. A brave amigo. Wherever they need us, our destinies lead us. Amigos, we're always together.
Hello and welcome to the Three Amigos FPL show for Game Week 28. I'm FPL Marple and I'm joined by my amigo Mars and our friend Ken Rooney, who is making his keenly anticipated podcast return tonight after carrying a baby for 9 months. Our amigo Dale is missing in action, having last been seen in a state of shock while browsing prams in Mothercare. Ken, you're very welcome to the Three Amigos. How has the season been treating you, and more importantly, how have you been keeping?
Thanks, Donica. Thanks for having me back. I'm not too bad. A bit tired. The season has been not treating me well, really. It's not been my best, but I can put that down to family factors. I think I'll have no excuse next season. I'm currently ranked 268,000, which is pretty poor for me, although I am a kind of slow starter. 79 points this week, not too bad. The same boat as many people, I suppose. Had Aguero, didn't captain him. So it's the above average score, but could have been so much higher.
Mine was, I bet you just by a few points, but I captained Aguero, but nobody else on my team. Firmino did well, Sterling did okay, and I had Lascelles coming in off the bench for Alonso, which was a nice 6-pointer. But yeah, it was pretty much average enough, so nothing too fantastic. But it's great to have you back on anyway, Ken. Marzi, how are you keeping, and how did you get on in 27?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, not too bad. God, I forgot about the week. It's been ages ago. So I just had a look. 87 points. Aguero captain. Shaqiri did all right. Salah, obviously. Sterling, and then the rest. I don't have Firmino, so it didn't really... I could have gone over the 100 if I had someone like him, or if Alonso decided to play. But instead I had a nice -1 coming. But yeah, can't complain. I'm happy with 87 points and definitely happy with the Aguero getting me 4 goals.
Yeah, it was a lovely feeling when I captained him, because most of the captain choices this weekend this season I've gotten wrong. So it was nice to definitely get it right last weekend. But tell me, Mars, our usual one of our starting points for the show is when you have your talking point of the week. What have you got for us this week?
We have got 500 followers and we would love 500 more. So keep on listening, liking and retweeting your Three Amigos pod. Three Amigos, la 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 la. That's my talking point. With my Scottish accent that I could.
That was very good, yeah.
The Three Amigos are offering our listeners the chance to appear on our podcast as our special guest in a future episode. Simply be the first to identify the voice.
I'm a football player.
For your chance to win. Send your guesses to @3AmigosFPL on Twitter or on our Facebook page. That voice again.
I'm a football player.
Good luck.
We got loads and loads of listener questions into the show this week, so thanks very much for all of you for sending them in. First up, and one of the topics that of course everyone is talking about with the blank game week clarity that we're after getting recently, is the free hit chip. Now, Mars, Kylie FPL, who of course appeared on our recent Getting to Know You podcast series, she asked, with City out of the FA Cup and now the albeit remote chance that we could be down to 2 blank matches in game week 35, does this alter your thinking about the free hit chip that week? Given some teams who blank in 31 have lovely fixtures in the lead up, is there a case to max on those now and then free hit in 31 instead? So did your thinking change on free hit based on the Man City results?
So I'll answer that in two ways. First, what I'm doing, and then what I would do if I didn't have like either free hit or one of the chips. So for me, it hasn't really changed my strategy. I have already 8 players for game week 31. 2 of them are Mariappa and Kenny. So Mariappa's playing Liverpool now from a Liverpool point of view, and the fact that I'll probably have 3 of their players, I don't really count Mariappa. And then Kenny, it really depends on what happens with Coleman. So that leaves me with 6. I still plan to bring in 3 to 4 players with my transfers, maybe take 1 hit, and should have 10 or 11 for 31. So I will not be wasting my free hit. I'll say wasting because I have enough players to play that game week without actually free hitting. Yes, there are some other teams with lovely fixtures like Spurs and Leicester City. I'll be cautious with Mahrez. Let's see what happens, but he's a quality player. But I have a plan and I'm sticking to it. My plan will then be to free hit in game week 35. Let's see what happens and see what blanks there are. It still could be worth it. The one thing that I would say is if you, like me, and have free hit, triple captain, bench boost, and a wild card, you have to be careful because one of the ways you could play it is free hit in one of the double game weeks. Now that then means that you can't use bench boost or triple captain in that game week. So you have to be really careful. If you've used your triple captain chip, then free hit and you still have the free hit, then that's definitely an option to free hit in one of the double game weeks, right? And set your team up for the other one and the blank. So it's definitely a strategy. I've always said there's no one way. It really depends on your team. It really depends on how many chips you've got. So look at your team, look at the players that you have, the players that are blanking, and then decide what's best for your team. There's definitely more than one way.
Yeah, because game week 31, of course, when I was looking at it, I think I have 7 going into it. And I don't have my free hit chip anymore. Neither do I have my wild card. My personal opinion is since I don't have the free hit chip, that I kind of just need to suck it up and accept that I'll have 7, 8, optimally 9 players coming into that game week 31. Ken, how are you set up for 31 at the moment? How many players have you got and how many do you think you'll have?
At the moment, I've 7, presuming this Tottenham and Newcastle is off, which probably will be. And I have 2 free transfers, so I could have 9 with another 2 game weeks to go. So I could almost field a full team. But for me, the fixtures in 31 are so bad. I'd be happy just to have about 9 or 10 players in that. I'm in the same boat as yourself. I don't have my second wild card, and that's kind of got me thinking about a bit of an alternative strategy of using a free hit chip in double game week 34. Because you could, even though you won't be able to use like a bench boost in that, I think there's still a lot of value to having potentially 22 scoring opportunities in a game week, especially if you're really trying to catch up on a mini league, which I am pretty much all of them. So I think if you have a look at free hitting on double game week 34, because it offers a massive kind of point ceiling if you're willing to gamble and just really just put your chips on a small amount of teams. Like, for example, it looks like you could have 3 Man United defenders against West Brom and West Ham, potentially 3 Arsenal attackers against Newcastle and Leicester, maybe 3 Swansea defenders against Everton and Southampton, and there's double game weeks as well for Man City and Tottenham. So if you're willing to really put all your eggs in 3 or 4 baskets and they come off for you, that could be a massively high scoring game week for you. Whereas I'm looking at game week 31 and that is going to be a low scoring game week, whichever way you cut it. Everyone is going to captain Salah, so there's going to be less variance there anyway. And I think there's going to be a few points from defenders, and that's about it. I wouldn't be wasting my free hit chip on that game week 31, even though logically it kind of seems like a good idea because there's so many blanks. We kind of go, okay, that's when we use it. But I'm going to ride that one out, and I think I'd advise other people to kind of do it as well. And just field a half decent team for it and just put it behind you, because I think that's what a lot of people will be doing.
Yeah, because the thinking with the free hit, of course, was that this is exactly, where there's a real diabolical blank game week that you can use it to field a full team. That was totally the thinking behind it. Whereas now when we're actually in a situation looking at it, a lot of the teams, when they're that bad, it's literally going, is it even worthwhile spending the chip on that? you know what I mean? It's as you said, it's just, you know, a team of Mariappas. We all don't dream of a team of Mariappas.
We certainly don't.
And tell us,
he's my star man.
Yeah, I know he is. But he returned very nicely one week for you, Mars, I remember.
He did, yeah.
Ken, tell me, John G, so Grifters United, one of our regular messengers in, he asked, this is to do with forward planning, and we kind of touched on it a bit there, but basically he was asking, you know, it's a vital time of year with 5 game, well, he reckons 5 game weeks are best to plan around at a time. So who is on your radar team-wise for the next few fixtures? So what teams are you kind of focusing in on right now?
Well, I suppose for people who do intend to free hit in 31, I would say Leicester have been looking very good at home. So I would go for possibly Vardy there. I'm not convinced on Mahrez yet. He'd have to show me a bit more, really, since he threw his toys out of the pram. Southampton, decent fixtures. James Ward-Prowse. I don't quite trust him personally, but, you know, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists now in his last 5, and he's taking free kicks, and he's insisting on free kicks. So he's nice and cheap. He's a decent option. Tottenham, obviously, I think avoid the fullbacks. Alderweireld's still working on his match fitness, so I think Vertonghen would be a kind of better, safe option there. Or people are talking about Eriksen. He's starting to come back into form, and, you know, if he's firing, he's a fantastic asset. And also Swansea, Norton and Fernandez. I mean, they're one of the form teams in the league now, so I think they can be. They could definitely get some points for you. If you're not free hitting in 31. I think Liverpool, definitely a standout option. I think Karius is a fantastic option, especially if you're going for 3 Liverpool. I think definitely having a goalkeeper as one of them is the way to go.
You're doing it again, Ken. This is. I remember the last time you were on the pod, me and you were talking about it, and we were talking about who was Moreno. It? Moreno, and you convinced me into getting a Moreno, Ken. And,
he was playing it. You know, in fairness, I got that much.
It didn't work out, Ken, at all. And I blamed you for my shoddy start to the season. No, it is true. It is true. Karius, he's nailed on in the Premier League. Anyway, he looks like he's going to get the start all the way through. A lot of people actually are talking about Van Dijk. I've almost pulled the trigger on Van Dijk a few times. Especially for Alonso, like he looks like a kind of no-brainer shift, like you said, for people who aren't free hitting in 31, that Van Dijk, he looks really good, and I think it's only a matter of time before he starts scoring some goals as well from set pieces. You're thinking Karius, obviously Salah, and who would be your third? Is it Firmino that you're thinking if you were doing a Liverpool triple up?
Yeah, just on that point, actually, Van Dijk is joint top for attempts in the box among defenders in the last 4 game weeks, even though he's only played 3. So I'd say that there's definitely a goal on the way for him at some point. Everyone will have Salah. So yeah, Firmino would be the other option there. I think he's kind of at an awkward price though. I think we're probably going to be looking at. He's a very expensive third striker. You know, I'll put it that way. Or he's a not very expensive second striker. So I'm not convinced about Firmino, but, you know, he's doing well, and I wouldn't advise against getting him. And as well, Everton as well, Pickford and Walcott, I'd have a look at.
Yeah, Pickford I have myself. And I know Firmino, for me, that's what Firmino has been playing as a second forward. Now, as I said it's like a disclaimer on every podcast, Ken, this season is so bad for me that me saying I have someone pretty much is the death knell for their prospects. Marzi, move on to, as Ken mentioned there, Everton. Everton are kind of gathering a decent bit of attention because of their fixtures and a couple of kind of foreign players, in particular Walcott. However, of course, Kenny at the back, Coleman's availability is a little bit in doubt. But FPL Booster was asking is it time to kill Kenny? And also if you want to talk about Everton in general, including, of course, Siggy.
Yeah, Everton. It's an interesting dilemma because they just haven't really hit form. They'll deliver, then not deliver, then get spanked, and then, you know, Niasse will come and score. So Everton, if you look at their fixtures, they have 2 away fixtures. So they've got Watford. Then they play at Burnley. Not the easiest, not the most difficult either. Then you've got then they've got Brighton at home, nice fixture. And then in the blank game week, they play away to Stoke. And after that, they've got Man City at home. They're one of the few teams to get points out of Man City. You remember that at the Etihad Stadium, actually. So looking at their play, so let's answer the first question. Kenny, I would wait. If you've got Kenny so far, just hold him, put him on the bench until you hear what happens with Coleman. If Coleman is injured, I know Baines is also coming back, and some people are saying, well, I think it's Martina, the guy that plays on the left, can move to the right. Well, let's see what happens. He's not really that expensive. Just keep him on the bench and then decide what to do. I'm planning on I've got Kenny, and I'm planning on keeping him because I don't want to really waste a transfer. Looking at the defenders for game week 31, as we mentioned before, there's not really much to choose from. So he'll probably be on the bench, or I might start him instead of Mariappa, and then if he doesn't play, then Mariappa will come in for me. I plan on having 3 defenders for 31, and that's it. Like, I'm playing 3-5-2. Looking at the other options, Pickford is a great option. Looking at those fixtures, I do think Sam will get them tighter. And those games they're playing, okay, Watford have impressed me with the new manager. Again, you don't know what you're going to get. Burnley at home, not going to be a high-scoring game. Burnley playing at home, it's not going to be a high-scoring game. Then at home to Brighton, yeah, it's a big game for Everton. They need to win those kind of games, to push for Europe. Away to Stoke, not the most difficult. So, again, Stoke are not high scorers. So, yeah, Pickford, Kenny, Keane if you don't have any defenders. I would stay away from the fullbacks like Coleman and Baines for now. And then if you look, I've got Theo. Theo is a good option. Sigurdsson for me is a. I mean, he's one of those FPL golds in the past, and I think he's coming back. And I do have plans to bring him in between now and blank game week 31 and double up on Everton mids probably because I plan to wildcard anyway game week after. And then really if you don't if you don't have Wilson and you want a third striker, then why not Nias? He's playing and he's scoring and he's cheap, so it gives you money somewhere else, So yeah. I think definitely Everton are a team to look at in this run up to the blank game week.
Yeah, because Niasse is actually getting in a decent number of transfers in this week. And I think he's an enabler for a lot of people. I think Everton are kind of always one of them teams that as much as they do well when you don't expect them to do well, and when you're kind of relying on them, they let you down. But as you mentioned there, Coleman and Baines, I mean, I think personally their price tag is so high that I don't think anyone's going to really, they're not worth that price. So we're really looking at the budget options in defence from the man Pickford. But thanks to me on Mars. Ken, on to prejudices. So Mahutsu at T3MK_ asked, how do you fight the player A does nothing for me prejudices? And also, what do we do with Aguero now that he's not getting a ban and he's totally awesome at FPL, and I can't imagine my life without him in my team? But Kane for me, better fixtures, prejudice. So a bit of a mouthful there from Mahutsu, but we get what his idea is. But basically, do you have any prejudices, and how do you deal with them in terms of your FPL strategy?
I try not to, I mean, I think you have to be really as objective and as you possibly can in this game, it's trolling. It's been a really trolly season. It's something I've had to deal with a lot. I mean, if he wears a Chelsea shirt, he's trolled me this season, I mean, I've bought Hazard, Christensen, Alonso and Morata all at the same time, some of them more than once. And it's been an absolute disaster. So I'm trying to be open-minded about them, but it's going to be tough for me to bring them back in, I'd say to him, look, just don't take it personally. The player doesn't know you and doesn't know any of us, exist. So it's they're not doing it to us personally. Would I have prejudices? I suppose if there's a good reason to, like, for example, I know you were talking about it in your last pod, like someone like Andy Carroll. It's, he's really, really injury prone. And if you're going to bring him in, it's probably not going to go well for you. So if you've good reasons like that, then I think that, it's perfectly legitimate. I suppose, just what you can try and do is look back and figure out why that player didn't perform for you at the time. There might be a good reason. He may have changed, been in a different formation, or been carrying a knock. Sometimes you hear weeks later, he was kind of half injured at the time. And finally, I'd say, look, just kind of accept it. There's a lot of variance in this game, and this season, I think in the last season especially, we seem to kind of expect a lot from players. Nobody scores every week except Salah. So just try and just take it on the chin. Do you know what I mean? Just be wary of that player, but just reset your brain, and just try not to rule him out of your plans 100%.
The Aguero one is definitely, it's one of these things where you have an FPL plan and you've gone, this is what I'm going to do, but this is what I've done personally. He scored 4 goals and I sold him, and I had planned on selling him and I followed through on it. But it's one of those kind of ones where sometimes it's hard to do. You can have a plan and then all of a sudden you go, this feels like a stupid move. And I think that's what he's kind of feeling there is, when it goes against your better instincts basically to sell someone.
Yeah. I'm going through the motions now. Because I really want Firmino, and he will come in before the blank. And we've got a nice fixture. West Ham have turned up to Anfield before and beat us, and they could easily do the same. But it's a nice fixture. And Aguero's got, he just played in the Cup. He's probably a little bit upset. He's got the Carabao Cup final. But he's also playing Arsenal, who are not really the best defensive unit around. So it's like, do I do it now? Do I wait? I'm leaving it till the last minute, hoping for some divine intervention.
So what I'd say about Aguero would be, the first thing to say is he's kind of pretty much fixture proof anyway. So I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry about him not scoring against Arsenal. I don't think they're great defensively, but I think sometimes the best move you can make is selling when everyone else is buying. And if you can be the first one to jump off a big player when he hits the skids, it can actually really turn your season around. It's risky, but it can really, really work. I think the biggest threat to Aguero, really, basically, it's not fixtures, it's the return of Gabriel Jesus, Aguero's in over a quarter of active squads. So, if you do jump off early, you can really steal a march on all those people who'll take 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of loyalty, reverse prejudice, I suppose, if you like, to get rid of him. So, and you can always, if you have a wild card, you can always kind of wild card him back in, say, for example, double game week 37. So you can kind of offset that. That can be a bit of a consolation for you. But what I would say is, if he's looking to make up ground, moving to Kane or Firmino, who are both over 40% owned, isn't really going to do it for him. I'd consider maybe Aubameyang for game week 29.
We know him as Boomerang on this pod.
But I consider him anyway, because Arsenal have some really, really tasty fixtures, and he could really kind of make a difference, being so low owned as well at the moment.
Yeah, that's a great point. Aubameyang is definitely one I'm keeping an eye on. But I think it's, as you said, I think it's easier if you're deciding. Like the moving from Aguero, I personally I have enough for one of the two, Aguero or Kane. So my idea for the last 4 or 5 game weeks, and I'm sticking to it, is to basically have one of them alongside Firmino and have a little bit more money then for my midfield and for my defence.
Kane is an easier one. I mean, you look at his fixtures and the fact that Palace have got no keeper at the moment, or no recognised keeper. It's a nice easy move. I agree with Ken that the issue with Aguero is when Jesus is back, although he hasn't even been in the squad yet. So how ready? Knee injuries are not that easy to come back from. For me, it's more about fixtures, the Cup and the Champions League. Now, they obviously got a really healthy lead from the first leg, so he might not even need to play the second leg. And that's what's playing on my mind. I think he will start against Arsenal in both games, because although the league is still kind of pretty much certain, I think Pep would want to make sure it's certain before he starts messing about with his team there. And the fact that they've actually got a really nice away victory in the Champions League means that he can rest him then. So it's one of those that it's going to be, my advice would be just wait as long as you can and then go with your gut, but not before you've eaten. Well, not after you've eaten.
Good stuff, Mars. I want to actually move on to one of our last listener questions, which is to do with, we kind of touched on it earlier on, was to do with Liverpool defensive options, and Karius, VVD and so on. But Prashant Tiwari was asking, he was wondering which Liverpool defender should come in. So he's basically weighing up between Robertson and VVD. So where are you coming in on that one, Mars?
You are our Virgil van Dijk. You came to us in time of need. Oh, yes, he did. You are our Virgil van Dijk. You even make Lovren look all right. Oh, he bloody does. Now I'm going to stop before Don and Ken start to sing along.
So you're with Virgil van Dijk, yeah? What's your thoughts on Robertson in terms of his nailed on, whether he's going to have that spot in the starting lineup?
With Moreno, I mean, listen, Robertson's been amazing, right? And he had one of his best games away to Porto. But with Moreno back, and now we're getting quite a few fixtures, I can see potentially some rotation. Out of the two, I'll definitely go with Virgil van Dijk if you've got the money.
Moving on to the next question, Ken. So this one was actually from Mr. Walker Porter. So I know he's a member of the of our Dales, the FPL Beer Club. But this is a similar kind of question to what we had earlier on. But teams or players to look at after the blank game week nonsense is over. Who would be the kind of players and teams that you think he'll be riding all the way from there on to the finish?
I suppose one factor just to start to look out for here is the kind of on the beach syndrome might be just about starting to creep in. So I just kind of keep a lookout for that. It's hard to say now at the moment who they'll be, because there could still be a lot of Europa League places to play for, but it's looking like Burnley are kind of almost there already. Although look, they have great fixtures, so I just maybe hold fire on them. Again, I think Arsenal have some fantastic fixtures, and for me, Arsenal just tend to play really well when the pressure's off and there's kind of nothing at stake. So if they're out of the running for
into the top four, yeah.
Yeah, so when there's so I think and regardless, they have some great players, and I think they could do really well. First, and under the radar, Brighton have some really good fixtures from 32 to 34, and I'll try now this Garrido, the 5.9. He's a Colombian left winger. He really, really looked lively against Stoke. He's been in and out of the side now, but he's scored in his last two. I'd be definitely just keeping him on the watch list. He impressed me a lot. Watford have three good home fixtures in the four from game week 32 onwards. Decore has been under the seasons long under the radar player, so he's a good option, I think. And Deulofeu, if you like that kind of thing, I don't rate him. I think he's doing consistent, but he's cheap and he's potentially explosive, so he's another one to kind of look for. And fixtures aside, I think Millie is a great option. He's been absolutely fantastic for me. Their fixtures soften up actually from game week 33 on. I mean, he's a penalty taker for 4.7. I mean, what more do you want? So I would be starting to get him in at that point as well.
Some great names there. Thanks a million for that, Ken. I do like the cheap penalty takers. We'll move on now to the Game Week 28 preview. So a little bit of a change of format this week. What we're going to do is we're going to just go through some players and teams that we really like and some that we dislike for the upcoming game week. We want to avoid having to talk too much about the scraps at the end of the barrel in the Premier League. So 28 has a couple of nice fixtures. They have a couple of big guns coming up against each other. Of course, Man United, Chelsea and Arsenal and Man City are key among them. But from an attacking point of view, Leicester against Stoke and Watford, or Everton away to Watford, and Spurs away to Palace obviously look like kind of nice tasty fixtures for attacking Spurs, Toffees and Leicester players. Marzi, you're going to look at the defenders. Who do you really like this game week, and who are you not that keen on?
So I like Maguire from Leicester or Schmeichel, one of the two, playing home to Stoke. I like Daniels or Francis or any of the Bournemouth back line basically playing at home to Newcastle. If you have a Brighton or Swansea defender, I also like them because I think this is going to be a potential clean sheet there. I like Van Dijk, and that's pretty much it. From liking, what I don't like is Crystal Palace at all, playing against Spurs without a recognised keeper, as we mentioned before. I don't like Stoke because I think Leicester at home are too strong. I don't like West Ham because I think Liverpool at home are too strong. And yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. United, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, 50-50. Are United going to park the bus to actually go at Chelsea at home? Don't know. Arsenal, Man City could be a really open game. So from defenders' point of view, if you've got the really big defenders like Otamendi, you play him hoping that he'll score. But I wouldn't be looking for clean sheets.
Yeah, I'm calling it now that Man United versus Chelsea will be a 0-0 draw. Yeah, I'm going to look at the midfielders for this game week. As Mars, as you were saying there, I think, and a lot of people are looking at Mahrez. They're looking at Eriksen from Spurs. I think from a midfield point of view, they've got two lovely fixtures. They're probably, people that are going to get them in a little bit early could well be rewarded, because they are the two kind of choice fixtures of the game week. Also, then of course you have, as Ken mentioned, with Brighton against Swansea. I know Swansea are improved, but I do like them, and they're kind of players I'm going to keep a good eye on a lot of the Brighton assets for the run-in, because they're guys I might get in. Everton, then of course we have Walcott. I've held off on getting him for now, but he's definitely an option. He's getting good shots on target for the Toffees. So against Watford, I would fancy him to have a good shot at it. But the Man United versus Chelsea match, of course, then will kind of bring up a few of my hate ones for this game week. In terms of Pogba is definitely in the doghouse, so if anyone's still holding on to him, I wouldn't be anymore. And then Chelsea, of course, Hazard, I haven't regretted selling him, even though he still looks good at times. But I think that one definitely will. I think they'll cancel each other out, and I wouldn't be too optimistic if I was a Hazard owner coming into this match. Lingard is still hanging around in my team like a bit of a bad smell, but like I said when I got him in, for his price tag, he's okay to be sitting there as my fourth midfielder. I'm relatively happy with him for now, and we'll see how it goes. That's pretty much my rundown for the midfielders' point of view. What's
your thoughts on Mane? I've seen a lot of people discuss Mane as a midfielder for this game week and the upcoming ones. What do you think?
Me personally, what Mane is, I would love to get him in because I'm one of those daft idiots who sold Salah weeks ago when he had his bit of an injury and that kind of thing, and I didn't keep the cash basically to buy him back in because I thought there was going to be some price drops. Ridiculous decision, but in hindsight, that's the way it is. Mane is somebody that I have looked at as kind of an alternative to Salah with the good fixtures coming up for Liverpool, but just at his price, it's kind of very hard to fit him in. I'm finding like Sterling would be someone that potentially I could get rid of Sterling and bring in Mane instead of it, but as Sterling is now, since I've sold Aguero, Sterling is my only Man City cover. So it's a tough one. Mane, like we know he has the quality, and he, like in the Champions League, he showed that. But this season in the Premier League, he just seems to be always the odd man out. And I think people buying him in, they could be disappointed. What do you think, Ken?
I'd agree. I wouldn't go near him. Like, to be honest, I think he's been in noticeably bad form for most of the season by his high standards. for me, this season anyway, he's more of a player that creates space for the other players, Salah in particular. So from an FPL point of view, he's just not as direct as you'd like. He's not the one. He's the one helping the others get the points without actually getting the assists himself either. Now he did score the hat-trick in the Champions League, but it'll take more than one game to convince me. And like for that price, it's a massive gamble. I wouldn't go near him personally.
Other thing that worries me is that amount of time he comes off early, and he's normally the first sub out as well. So that's something that you need to take into account. Bobby and Salah will always play longer than him.
Yeah, there's a bit of a strange one with his fitness, because I wouldn't have thought, like after he came back, I understood they were kind of phasing him into games a lot and they were kind of taking him off. But that's continued all the way through. I mean, it hasn't literally abated at all. Yeah, that's probably our thoughts on it. Is we can see why people would be interested in him, but personally, I don't think he's worth the cash. Ken, you're looking at the forwards for 28. Who do you love and who do you hate?
Well, look, it's no surprise here, but Kane would be the one I love. Palace at the moment look like they'll have no senior goalkeeper, and that's a massive flag for me. There is a slight caveat. Kane appears to have kind of picked up some kind of a knock recently, but I think Spurs will have to play him. Keep an eye on injury news, but he'd be my one. As an outside pick, I'd say Mooney. I just have a kind of soft spot for him, and he seems to be kind of getting back into the team now. So I just kind of have a little tip for him. As far as hate goes, I think Rondon, people need to really steer clear of him. He's at home against Huddersfield and he takes plenty of shots, but I don't think he looks convincing in front of goal at all. And Rodriguez isn't far behind. He just looks completely out of sorts lately. As well as that, even though he's actually been getting a load of assists lately, I don't know how. I would seriously avoid Benteke as well. He's just fallen off a cliff this season.
That's brilliant, Ken. Thanks very much. Lads, that's the end of our preview. So what we're going to move on to now is the final section of the show, which is the Barlow and Baldwin captain picks. Ken, you're an old pro from our fan few days, so you'll know the gist of this. But basically, if you're looking at your team for 28, who are you going to be picking if you make a conservative choice, and who are you going to be if you're feeling frisky?
Well, I'd say my Barlow, even though he burnt me a little bit through no fault of his own the last week, would be Mo Salah. I think against West Ham at home, I think he should do well. Or Kane, depending on injury news. But I mean, if I'm being ultra safe, it would be Mo Salah. For my Baldwin, I think Jamie Vardy is kind of looking in good form lately, and against Stoke, I think he should definitely come up with a goal or two.
Brilliant stuff, yeah. Marzi, how about you? Who's your Baldwin? Who's your Barlow?
Barlow, I agree with Ken 100%. You've got Kane, you've got Salah, or even Firmino, to be honest. Baldwin, Colin Wilson against Newcastle.
I think you stole that one from me, Marzi.
Sorry, no Bagsy here. I think he could. He's one of those who returns 1 in 3 or something silly like that, so he might deliver. So that would be my Baldwin.
Yeah, it's all between really the Barlow this game week is between your Spurs and your Liverpool assets really. Kane, Firmino for me would be the kind of they'd be the ones I'd be weighing it up between. And Callum Wilson would be my Baldwin pick. But no, I don't think I'll be veering away from either Kane or Firmino. Firmino is probably the risky one of the two. But yeah, Kane has been having my captain on since the end of last game week when I sold Aguero for him. So that's probably where I'm going to go. That's all we've got time for tonight on the Three Amigos FPL show. Thanks a million to this week's honorary amigo, Ken Rooney, who you can all, of course, follow at Ken Rooney on Twitter. Thanks to you for listening, sharing and liking the pod. Get following our group Twitter account at 3 Amigos FPL. Mars at Mars05, Dale at Chef Dale H, and even myself, if you feel inclined, at FPL Marple. Special request this week, please leave a nice review on iTunes, as it really helps us to get the podcast in the ears of more people. Booyah!
One for each other and all for one. Amigos are we. Brother to brother